What's up, friends? Welcome into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com. Thanks for listening as well to ESPN Kansas City with Dan Courtwright. I am Sean Kellerman. Thanks for joining us here on this Monday. Not the best Monday show we've ever had because we like talking about wins.
That's right.
But some stuff to talk about, needless to say, throughout the show today. Of course, we're breaking down KU Cincinnati here in the opening segments. We're going to give our thoughts. KU falls to 3-2, 1-1 in conference play. Dan's got some reaction. I've got some reaction. And then we're going to be joined, special guest here in the opening segment, Kevin Flaherty from the Kansas City Sports Network as well is in town and going to join us here in studio. So always appreciate Kevin's insight, win or lose for the Jayhawks on the gridiron, and some basketball news as well for KU
That's right.
Hoops. Got to get Kevin's thoughts on that as Taylen Kinney
At least we got
announces
a win, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a win.
That's
KU
a win.
volleyball
KU
won
volleyball won on
yesterday.
Sunday.
So
Swept,
it was still a successful weekend, partially at least, here in Lawrence.
Chiefs won.
We're going to hear from Jalon Daniels a little bit later this hour as well. JD6 never shies away from talking to the media after a tough game. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of tough games these past couple of years, but JD always shows up. Then we have our Case of the Monday segment. We'll take you around the world of sports. A lot going on, Dan. College football, NFL, and the MLB playoffs as well. And somehow the Detroit Tigers did not win the AL Central, which is crazy. We gave some of the odds on that. And, man, you missed an opportunity to win hundreds of thousands of dollars by throwing down on Cleveland.
Why didn't I?
Yeah,
why didn't
that.
I? Yeah. When I saw it at 10,000 to 1, I was like,
yeah. Hey, MLB playoffs though, one of the wild card series, Red Sox Yankees, can't beat that. So so that's
very
coming
fun.
up. That's coming up. A lot of stuff in Case of the Mondays. You know that you're going to hear some James Franklin thoughts on there as well. Lance Leipold, we're going to hear from him post game, the loss to Cincinnati a little bit later in the 5 o'clock hour, and then at the end of the show, we're going to deep dive a little bit more on Taylen Kinney announcing his intention to come to Kansas and, well, not just bring himself, possibly, perhaps bring a friend or two over to the Jayhawks for the 2026-27 basketball season. We'll also mention the Chiefs. We'll do a little bit more detailed look at the Chiefs win over the Ravens tomorrow in Rock Chalk Sports. But, yeah, we're also going to give some Monday Night Football game picks as well. So looking forward to that at the end of the show. Packed show here on Rock Chalk Sports. Dan, let's break down this loss to Cincinnati. It was a game where Kansas got out 7-0. You had the Emmanuel Henderson long touchdown catch. And then after that, at no point did either team lead by more than one possession. So a back-and-forth affair, one of those ones that you got to find a way to win. And as we saw often in 2024, KU was not able to get it done. They have the heartbreaking loss and losing by 3.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start off with the positives of what we saw, right? Jalon played a fantastic game, aside from the fumble at the goal line, which, granted, Kansas did manage to get a stop and then go back down and score. But still, you could look at that and say, well, that is technically 3 points that you left out there on the board, at least 3 points, if not a touchdown on the JD fumble. But JD still went 19 of 28 for 445 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, also had 72 yards on the ground. Jalon had a fantastic game overall, but that's one positive. The other positive, Emmanuel Henderson, we got to see that speed and that explosiveness, especially on that first play of the game, that 93-yard touchdown that Kansas opened up with. He had 214 yards, 2 touchdowns on 5 receptions. So Emmanuel Henderson finally kind of coming to, right? I mean, we knew that he was a good player in high school coming into Alabama, but never had this kind of game there. So for him to be able to do that, I guess sort of solidify himself as that number one guy for JD has really been impressive. Also saw some great stuff out of Keaton Quebec and Bowden Gruen as well on the offensive side of the ball. Now let's look at the defense, right? And the defense, it's kind of the same story of what we saw last year, right? I mean, last year, the big story was, hey, Kansas can't complete the end of halves. Those last 2 minutes at the end of each half really have been hard on Kansas. And we saw it again, right? When Kansas was able to go down, score with a minute 45 left with Levi Wentz, the go-ahead touchdown to go up 34-30. All Kansas needed to do was get a stop. They had them at 4th and 10 inside of their own territory. And an amazing, I don't want to take anything away, but amazing one-handed grab by I believe it was Jeff Caldwell,
Noah Jennings, yeah.
or no Jennings,
Noah
yeah.
Jennings.
So a great one-handed catch to get the first down for Cincinnati, and they were able to get down there and score with less than 30 seconds left to go. Obviously, unfortunate, and you wanted the Kansas defense to be able to get a stop. Now, how much of that was missed assignments and bad coaching, or how much of it was, hey, the defense is just gassed, right? Because we saw a little bit of kind of what we saw in the Missouri game, where the disparity between plays of, I believe, in the first half, Cincinnati had ran 45 plays. Kansas only ran 22 plays. Kansas offense was not out there very much. Now, granted, one of them was a one play, 93-yard touchdown catch to Emmanuel Henderson, but still, Cincinnati was going on those long extended drives. And I think you kind of saw the defense really start to get tired there, especially towards the end of the game, because they were going on those long extended drives. And I think that's really kind of what came back and bit them. But it is a little bit of a challenge, because you look at it and you go, okay, well, they had all of last year to work on this. That was their main focus, is, hey, the 2-minute drill defense, basically. They've worked on it consistently throughout last year. They worked on it consistently throughout the offseason, through fall camp, and it's still not fixed. What needs to change for this Kansas defense in order for them to be able to figure it out at the end of halves?
Well, you can't simulate game day, right? And as much as they
True.
try, and there's a lot of different things that you can do, but yeah, that's one of the stories for sure, is KU not executing at the ends of halves. And people aren't going to talk about this a lot, but Cincinnati, they got 3 points when they shouldn't have at the end of the first half. They end
Right.
up winning
Oh,
by
absolutely.
3. Evan Pryor breaks off 2 long ones, and honestly, KU was fortunate. And I use that word kind of loosely, because a lot of times penalties actually do play a part in how successful any given play is.
Right.
But Cincinnati had a lot of points taken off the board. I believe they had 4 touchdowns taken off the board because of penalties.
Right.
Granted, those drives all ended differently, but Cincinnati kept biting themselves, and it didn't seem to come back to get them. And that was a thing. But the bottom line for this one, for me, and this goes back to KU not closing it out and being 4-12 in their last 16 and one-score games, is there are plays to be made, and you either make them or you don't. And unfortunately, on that 3rd and 10 play, KU had 2 different defenders have a shot at the interception, and Trey Lathan and Lyric Rawls both couldn't come down with it. That
Right.
means that it's 4th and 10, and an unbelievable catch made by Noah Jennings. That's a winning play, right? Kansas wasn't able to make enough winning plays. And it's frustrating because, yeah, we saw that last year, and we really try to not talk about that because it's a different team. There are some of the same faces, and we know that there are a lot of similar faces on the coaching staff as well. We know that, but the players got to go out and do it. And it's a different team. They've got to turn the page from this one. And we're going to talk a lot about UCF, of course, as we move forward. But winning plays, Cincinnati made them down the stretch and Kansas didn't. There's a lot of different things that we can look at in this one as to why Kansas didn't end up with a victory. And we're going to ask Kevin Flaherty very shortly about some of those things. But defensively, a lot of holes for Kansas in the secondary. I think people saw how athletic, fast, and just good the Cincinnati receivers are. I think Cincinnati,
Right.
we've seen they were very underrated heading in. You saw how good Sorsby was if you don't pressure him. If he was pressured, he looked like a different guy, right?
Yeah.
KU wasn't able to consistently get pressure. They did a better job in the second half, namely Blake Harreld, and you could tell Sorsby wasn't nearly as comfortable being flushed out of the pocket or having to throw on the run at all. So that was a key as well. But Sorsby led the team with help from Jennings down for a game-winning drive, and then it kind of looked like the end of the UNLV game last year in terms of Kansas couldn't pick up a fumble, right? They had a lot of
Yes.
opportunity, just like they couldn't get the interception against um, against Cincinnati. And then the last drive offensively, yeah, KU didn't have a ton of time, but they didn't really even throw a dart at it. They didn't have much, and that's not something you want to focus on because the focus should be the plays that weren't made. And we know JD had the fumble and Cincinnati's +1 and turnover. And there's a lot of other things that are probably more important than that. But that's something to look at. And then Coach Leipold talked about it today. Another big story that is not going to be talked about as much because people are going to look at either the fumble or the defense not getting a stop, the amazing one-handed catch. KU didn't score enough in the red zone, in the tight
Right.
red zone. And
Absolutely.
part of this is due to not having a consistent running game. Twice Kansas had to settle for field goals in the first half. KU only had 1 touchdown in the first half, and it was on the first play, a
Yeah.
93-yard touchdown completion to Henderson, and then they had to settle for a couple field goals. And then in the second half as well, We have the fumble inside the 5. That's 3 opportunities in the tight red zone that Kansas only gets 6 points. I understand Cincinnati scored 37 and KU was getting gashed a bit in the secondary, not getting enough pressure on Sorsby like I talked about, but those are all noteworthy things as well. The other thing before we bring Kevin on that I want to say, I mentioned UNLV, some similarities and how that was kind of a nightmarish loss, and there were more than a few last year, as we know, is that you hate crediting the opponent. Last year, Arizona State, they were picked either 15th or 16th, depending on where you looked in the Big 12 in the preseason. And it was such a bad prediction that they completely got rid of the preseason poll
Right.
this year. People didn't know how good Sam Levitt was,
Right.
and they didn't know how good Cam Scadaboo and Jordan Tyson and that entire team and Kenny Dillingham, all the success they had. They didn't realize that. I see some of that Cincinnati
Yeah,
this year. I do.
they're good.
I do. Brendan Sorsby is the real deal. Again, that's going to be key for everybody moving forward defensively against Sorsby is to get pressure on him because he looks different. But these are real guys. I mean, they've got 2 running backs. They've got wide receivers. I don't know if they'll win the Big 12 like Arizona State did, but Cincinnati, they've got some players. And it's now, that being said, you look at it, okay, on one side, it's not a bad loss. I don't think it's going to be a bad loss. But on the other side, man, I think this is going to end up being a really good team. And KU was right there and had a chance. Kevin Flaherty joins the show now at Kansas City Sports Network. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on here as we kind of break this down. Monday shows are awesome after wins and not as awesome after losses. Your takeaways from this one, because yeah, disappointing losing this 1-score game.
Yeah, I think when you lose, there's a tendency to look at everything as the sky is falling, and when you win, everything is beautiful, right? But Lance Leipold, when we talked to him today, talked about, hey, even if we had won that game, the film sessions were still going to point out the same deficiencies, the same areas that you guys talked about in terms of, hey, defensively, didn't do this right, didn't do this right. The red zone stuff. You have 3 trips inside the red zone that together netted 6 points. And it's tough to win games like that. And at the same time, there were some really positive things that maybe tend to get glossed over. Your quarterback has 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's pretty good. Emmanuel Henderson
Yeah.
has 214 receiving yards. Pretty good. Bowden Gruen was terrific. Keaton Kubeka made some plays. And they did have the odd thing that went really positively defensively. I thought the defensive line played a lot better in the second half and started to get the pressure that you talked about on Sorsby. And so ultimately, like you said, not a bad loss, but also one where you're sitting here and you're looking at, hey, Kansas trying to reach its goals, trying to get to a certain point this year. It really puts you behind the 8 ball in terms of trying to get to those goals.
Yeah, it sure does. And I've said this quote before, one of my all-time favorite quotes, just because it's reminiscent, I guess reminds you of any sporting event you've ever watched. It's a Roy Williams quote that isn't something that's maybe a deep thinker or anything, but he says, the margin between winning and losing is so thin, but how you feel is so different. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what it was with Coach Leipold today, right? I mean, the bottom line is the film's going to be what the film is, whether Trey Lathan catches that ball or not, right?
Yeah.
And of course, we would have much preferred KU wins this thing 34-30 and that been the case, but there's going to be ways to look at this from a positive standpoint, from a negative standpoint, and KU needs to start making those winning plays. But it starts defensively. Like you
Yeah.
said, JD did have the turnover, but man, 500 yards, and he's looking like the Heisman caliber player that we know he is. What did you see from the secondary in general? Because when Sorsby was comfortable, like I said, he was kind of chopping us up.
Yeah, I think there were a couple different things with the secondary. In one case, when they played soft coverage, Sorsby absolutely picked it apart. And, he was throwing with great anticipation. I thought he had a better arm, just sort of raw arm than Bo Prabula did. Prabula was really accurate, but Sorsby had sort of that special arm that can fit the ball into sort of smaller spots. And then the other thing, guys, is Cincinnati was able to spread things out, and then they were able to attack certain matchups that they really liked. You had one of the touchdowns was on a corner route working against a safety, where you basically had a really quick slot guy, you know, running into a corner route with all kinds of space. That's tough for any safety to make. And Kansas tried some different things. They tweaked some different things. Obviously, they were down a little bit at safety in terms of attrition and guys out there. They rolled out Jalen Todd as like a free safety for a little while. But ultimately, it was just one of those things where it always felt like Cincinnati maybe had one more receiver than KU could cover when they were in man, and then when they were in zone, Sorsby did a terrific job.
Kevin Flaherty, KCSN, joins the show here in studio. And Kevin, wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the defense, because just looking at the third down conversions and the fourth down conversions, right? They
Yeah.
were 3 for 3 on fourth, 7 of 16, I believe, on third down, which to me, if I'm doing this math correctly, 10 of the 16 times that they at least got to third down, they were able to convert.
Sure.
I mean, we talked about the 2-minute drill defense, but this sort of was a long-standing thing of just Cincinnati just able to convert. Just, do you think that is going to be a point of emphasis for Coach DK heading into this UCF game?
Yeah, I think so. And I think part of it, guys, is the fact that not only are they allowing a lot of third down conversions, they're allowing some third and fourth down and long conversions. When
Right.
you get a team into 3rd and 13, that needs to be a stop. And right now, it's not becoming a stop. When you get into 4th and 10 with the game on the line, you need to get that stop. And I realize that's really simple to say. The next part of it is
Yeah.
how do you do it? But at the same time, when you get teams into those situations where it's so advantageous for the defense, you need to find a way to close those plays out. And right now, Kansas isn't doing that part.
And let's flip the field a little bit and go to the offensive side.
Yeah.
Talking about the same subject, kind of become a recurring theme now, right, through 5 games. Third down, KU was 2 of 2 on fourth down conversions, but just 3 of 9. They've kind of been hovering around a 33%
Yeah.
on third down conversions all year, which isn't quite good enough. How much of that can be attributed to the run game and also the lack of red zone success? I mean, you got to be able to run the football, and KU just, for whatever reason, they haven't found that natural rhythm trying to run the ball.
Yeah, it's different in that part, right? Because in that case, Kansas is struggling a little bit with the 3rd and shorts, because you get into 3rd and 2 and you don't have a situation where you feel really confident about, hey, we can line up and just go get those 2 yards. And it's been the same on 4th and short too. And so I do think the running game is something they've found a little bit more consistency with at points. When you look at the West Virginia game and the way they did in the second half, that was the consistency that you want. You look at Kansas's final drive that they had, that was maybe Kansas's best drive of the season in terms of not just going down and getting a touchdown, but also taking more than 6 minutes off the clock in a situation where you wanted to take time off the clock. And so I do think there's those flashes of it. And now it's just, hey, can you get to a point where you want to run the ball, the other team knows you want to run the ball, and you can run the ball anyway. And the margins on that are so small. One guy misses a block, one guy lets somebody cross his face, and it's play over. But I do think that Kansas is starting to show a little bit more in the running game where you can say, I'm not sure that this is going to be a problem for that much longer. I do think they're trending in the right direction there.
And I want you to expand on what you just said regarding crossing the face, right?
Yeah.
VMAC talked about that in the game broadcast, and a lot of that comes down to the tight ends in terms of
Yes.
KU not having enough success because of tight ends not blocking as effectively as they need to and allowing some defenders to cross their face. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. And there are some situations where a tight end is having a tough block because the tackle next to them is going to the second level. And so you really need to sort of cut off the guy who's coming inside so that they don't get that penetration. Because if you think about it, on a 3rd and 1 run, you don't have to be perfect, right? You don't have to block everybody, clear out a giant lane and you get 10 runs. You just got to get 1 yard. The one thing that can stop you from getting 1 yard is penetration.
Yeah.
And the way that happens so many times is when a lineman allows somebody to come across their face to the inside, which allows them to kind of get into any gap that you would want. And nothing kills a short yardage run like somebody crossing the face of either a lineman or in a lot of those cases, a tight end.
Kevin Flaherty, KCSN, joins the show here in studio. Kevin, wanted to stick on the tight end room because, there are some things you can look at in the blocking game, but in terms of the passing game, Bowden Gruen probably had his best game
Yep.
as a Jayhawk. We know Deshaun Hanukkah is dealing with a little bit of injury right now. They've taken
Yep.
all the oars off of the names in the depth chart. Just what did you see out of Bowden Gruen and the tight end room in general in the passing game?
Well, friend of your guys' show and my partner Nick Springer, always tweets out that he has a cloak of invisibility that
Yeah.
he uses because I wish Pro Football Focus kept track of separation when guys make catches, because it always feels like, for whatever reason, Bowden Gruen is wide open. You
Yeah.
know, people forget about it. I don't know if it's a route running thing, if
The
it's
Fairchild
if it,
effect.
yeah,
Right.
just people keep blowing coverages or whatever it is, but he is consistently open. But I think Lance Leipold made a really good point today too, where he talked about the adjustment that Gruen made with his body on the touchdown catch. That's not a play that a lot of tight ends make. You know, usually you have to almost kind of hand them the football in
Right.
order for them
Yeah.
to make a catch. You have to set it up on a silver platter. And so for him to make that adjustment to come back, you know, it was a difficult catch as I hit the microphone. But it, I think you're seeing him get better and better every week. And when you get Deshaun Hanukkah back and you have both of those guys, I'm not sure his role is going to shrink that much. I think you just say, hey, we've got two of them now, rather than having one of those guys. And it's been good to see him step up, and it's been good to see the depth of that receiving core as well. By the way, you guys talked about Jalon a little bit earlier. Jalon Daniels, before the season, if I would have told you he's on pace to have over 3,200 yards passing, over 500 yards rushing, 47 combined
Right.
touchdowns, and
Yeah.
5 interceptions,
Yeah.
I
It's
think you guys probably would have taken that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's on pace for that kind of season. And I know some people will say, "Oh, the competition." Well, he also didn't play in the fourth quarter really in one game. Got pulled early against Fresno State, against West Virginia. So it's not like he was out there stat padding against really bad
Right.
teams either. He's just having a really good year this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost kind of flying under the radar
Yeah.
a little bit, right? Because I don't know if it's because the expectations were so high or because of the loss to Missouri in Cincinnati that it's kind of overshadowed. But Jalon is having an excellent season. And I don't think it's too crazy to, you know, mention his name in some Heisman talks, right? Especially if he continues along this pace. I wanted to continue on the offense
Yeah.
because of the fact that, you know, we've seen Jim Zabrowski at the helm now for a few games, and we're seeing a lot of fun with the schemes, right? That
Yeah.
fake triple option where he goes back and hits the wheel route. We've seen that 3 times, I believe. We're seeing some fun stuff with tight ends and different kind of route trees from these different wide receivers. But at the same time, you know, we have seen a little bit of difficulty of especially, you know, looking back at the Missouri game and sometimes even this game of the team actually staying out there on the field, especially in
Yeah.
the first half against Cincinnati. Is that just a chemistry thing in terms of, you know, oh, hey, we have the play calls figured out. We have the personnel. We just don't have the chemistry down quite yet. And do you see that continuing to grow throughout the season?
I think there's a little bit of a chemistry thing with the offensive line, but I think it, like I said, I think that's trending in the right direction. I think the bigger thing is it's great to be explosive offensively. Your defense doesn't appreciate it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Right.
they're right back out there on the field. And you look at how many explosive plays that they've generated. When you look at the West Virginia game and now into this one, I think the West Virginia game, they had what, 4 touchdowns of 40 or more yards
Yeah.
right around, and then having the explosive plays against Cincinnati as well. And then the defense not getting off the field in the money downs we talked about. The offense just isn't getting as many chances. If the defense goes out after the one play touchdown drive to Emmanuel Henderson, the 93-yard play, and gets a 3 and out, yeah, maybe you have a 6-play drive, a 10-play drive, whatever. But they weren't getting that chance because the defense kept giving up first down after first down after first down. And so I do think there's a little bit of that. I do want to ask you guys though something though. The offense looks a little different than I thought it would have going into the season, and that I thought it they would have been more likely to lean into sort of more option stuff. And when
Right.
you look at the way Zabrowski called the bowl game, it was a lot like this, right? A lot
Hmm.
more varied passing concepts, pushing the ball down the field vertically in the passing game. Not as much option in that game, but especially with Lubick coming back, with Jalon Daniels being so good at the option stuff, I thought there would be maybe a little bit more varied running game with the quarterback, and that they would have a little bit more variation there. as opposed to, hey, you're going at it and you're throwing the ball like this.
Right. I mean, I'm on record saying that Jalon Daniels in the option is my favorite
Yes.
thing that we've ever done. But I think you can look at that Cincinnati game. There's one that sticks out to me where we did run an option play and
Yeah.
JD got hit and he pitched it late and it was almost a fumble, almost
Sure.
a recovered fumble by the defense. So I don't know if maybe they were, all right, let's ease up on the option stuff. But I'm kind of with you, like, Jalon is so useful on his legs and he's so smart in the
Yeah.
option as well. I would expect a little bit more option wrinkles thrown in there. Now, maybe it's just the fact that, hey, that hasn't gotten into the install yet. But
Yeah,
you
sure.
also, when you're in, week 2 of conference play, you'd think that you'd have probably 99% of your, install at
Yeah.
least in. And then now you're sort of molding that towards I guess the defenses and running an option against sort of a 3-3-5 like Cincinnati does. I sort of like that too. They do have that rover and they play their safeties in the run fits as well. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I guess, what do you think, that it's just that maybe that fumble kind of let they said, hey, we're not going to run as much option anymore? Or I don't know, maybe it's just a Jim Zabrowski thing of, hey, we like the explosive plays, like we like the passing concept more than the option stuff, because it's so challenging when you have such a skilled quarterback like
Yeah.
Jalon, right?
Yeah, it may just be a time and situation thing, and it may be kind of what you guys were talking about with the explosiveness of the offense in terms of, hey, if you've only got 4 plays in a quarter, maybe you had this big long play sheet of things that you'd like to run, and all of a sudden you're saying, okay, let's pare this down to what we really like, because we're not going
Right.
to get to run all of it.
Yeah,
And
they
so,
scripted out 30
yeah,
plays and they only
exactly.
get to run 22 in the
And
first half. Sure,
yeah, and
I
so
get you.
yeah, and so that could be part of it too. I did think one of the interesting things that we saw this week was Kansas twice ran a quarterback that wasn't Jalon
That's
Daniels.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had Cole Ballard go out there and get a carry, and then Zeke Marshall coming out. The
Yeah.
fans really appreciated that one. A great run by Zeke, but I thought that was really interesting in a game where, your running back depth obviously isn't as good with Daniel Highshaw's injury. How are you going to get the carries and get the running game that you want? Well, instead of, going to your second and third string running backs in that situation, maybe you said, hey, let's get Zeke a carry, let's get Cole Ballard a carry.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
I completely loved it. Like I have so much confidence with Cole Ballard running the football, and I'm
Yeah.
sure I will with Marshall as well. We just haven't seen it nearly as much. But Cole Ballard is going to hold on to the football, and he's going to take hits, and he's going to get positive yardage. And
Yeah.
again, I think it was a situation where it was late enough in that game where Kansas wasn't getting enough from their tailbacks. It was like, all right, well, let's get some playmakers out there. And unfortunately, you look at the 3rd and 1, which turned into 4th and inches for KU, and it's not necessarily an individual stab at some of these guys, whether it's the offensive line or the running back, but both times Kansas said, all right, our best option to pick up this first down is to run JD on a quarterback sneak, which we don't do very often. And boy, was it close. But he was able to get it, and that was huge. And we were hoping that was going to be something that led Kansas to a win. But yeah, got to get a little bit more. And again, when the opponent's floating around 50 to 60% combined 3rd and 4th down conversions, and KU's closer to 30, I mean, that's tough to come up from. And again, that plays a part in the defense being out there. That plays a part in time of possession and potential fatigue and all that. KU's also not going to have Bengali Kamara in the first half against UCF. That was a triple whammy because there was no flag thrown, but they decided that it was going to be a targeting call, and that was, an automatic first down inside the 10 for Cincinnati. You lose Bengali for the second half. It was early in the 3rd quarter, of course, which is worst case scenario, because then you lose them for the 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, and then the first half against UCF. So that's another thing the defense is going to have to deal with. I did want to go back really quick to the first thing you said, Kevin, which was good performances from the wide receivers, especially Gruen and Kubeka. Gruen's touchdown, which was great because he made the adjustment, and I love when our guys are wide open. We didn't see that near as much last year, but Mason Fairchild a couple years ago seemed like he was always open.
Yeah.
Wentz was wide open at one point. But then also Bryson Canty, he had 1 catch for 31 yards. He looks like a real athlete. The other catch he made, I believe, was called back for illegal touching. I think he had stepped out, but he looks like he's an impact player as well. So what did you like out of those pass catchers, a couple of which had career days?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned all those guys. Cam Pickett caught a corner route. Obviously, he's been dealing with some injury stuff. And Doug Emelian on the bubble screen. I mean,
right.
So yeah, you're getting every single guy involved. It felt like it, and that was really really cool to see. And I think when you look at that group and also the varied way that they're getting those guys touches, we just talked about the quarterbacks getting uh, run plays. What about Emmanuel Henderson not getting a jet sweep or anything, but actually lining up in the backfield
Yeah.
as a tailback and getting a carry? And so it's really nice to see that because obviously they had to reboot that wide receiver room this offseason when you lost so many guys and so much production and you go into the portal and you think you've got good guys, but it's really difficult to look at it and be so confident until you see them out there. And it seems like at this point they hit on a lot of those guys, and it's going to continue to go well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Flaherty joins us here in studio, and obviously, kind of want to put a bow on this one. Look forward. We'll ask you about Taylen Kinney in a little bit, but first things first. Looking at UCF, their quarterback
Yeah.
situation a little bit up in the air right now. What are you seeing out of UCF?
Yeah, UCF has a lot of team speed, especially you look at the edge guys, I think can really get after the quarterback. And then you look at the wide receiver position. They have guys that can really get downfield. Kansas State struggled a little bit with that. UCF was able to get some big plays down the field. Unfortunately for Kansas, unfortunately for UCF, it sounds like both of their top two quarterbacks have AC joint
Oh
sprains,
man,
which
yeah,
of course makes it kind of hard to throw the ball down the
right.
field
Yeah,
a little bit. Scott Frost said that those guys are, their status is kind of unknown for this week, but I think UCF represents a really good challenge, and for those people who haven't been to the bounce house as they
Yeah.
call it,
right,
it,
right.
it is actually a really tough environment to play in, and so it'll be Kansas going to a place that's going to be tough to get a win against a team that has a lot of team speed.
I love that it's actually called the Bounce House. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a nickname, but it's
Yeah.
also the name. It's not a
Yes.
stadium. It's called the Bounce House. So that's great. Biggest campus, of course, in the Big 12 is UCF. But that's one that I'm not going to ask you about the schedule because whenever I do that, we something bad happens. I feel like you just got to beat UCF.
Yeah.
October, there's a lot of opportunities for Kansas, and heading even into November 1st, I would say. But yeah, important stretch of schedule coming up for Kansas. Again, you're not going to scoff at this loss, in my opinion, to Cincinnati come season's end, but got to get back in the win column and get those winning plays toward the end. Kevin, let's switch to basketball. Huge news over the weekend,
Yeah.
right? Taylen Kinney verbally committing to Kansas for 26-27. Obviously, we believe that there's a current member or two on the roster who were saying, "Hey, go ahead and come and ball out for 10 months." I think
And go to
is
league,
how
yeah.
it was phrased. But a huge get because KU is obviously going to have some pieces to replace.
Yeah, I'm not sure Darren Peterson's going to be around for year two. So
Yeah.
so
Which
you
there's
kind of
hope now, at
so
least,
you
yeah.
you kind of want to go out and get a point guard and somebody that's going to play in that spot. And Kenny looks like he would be a really good fit for Bill Self. I think, DeJuan Harris took probably more flack than he should have for a guy who won at the level that he did, but also he had some limitations, especially as a scorer. And when you look at Taylen Kinney, that's the thing that he does best is
Yeah.
put the ball in the basket, and he can create for other players as well. But I think the scoring ability at point guard really changes a lot of the calculus in terms of the way that teams are able to defend you. Also, guys, it sounds like, not to reveal anything, but it does sound like Kansas is probably going to have another guy or two in this recruiting class by the end of the week.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Kenny
Kenny said he,
starting that ball
yeah.
rolling downhill a little bit.
Yeah, he said that I believe he already has a couple of guys who all he has to do is make the call, and then he's going to try to get Tyron Stokes in as
Yes.
well. But obviously, huge news for
Yeah.
Kansas. And looking at the class of 26, I guess looking forward, obviously, we don't want to skip over 25 because we think this is going to be a special year.
Yeah.
But just how do you see this roster kind of shaping up for 26? Is it going to be led by, essentially underclassmen and freshmen?
I think it could be led by underclassmen. I'll be interested to see. We talked, I believe, last week about some of these guys that are really young that are in their first year, that have NBA eyes on them, but aren't
Right.
necessarily big time NBA prospects just yet. When you look at a Cole Rosario, when you look at a Paul
Right.
Mbia, guys like that, and I think when you look at next year's roster and how 26 shapes up, a lot depends on their decisions because I think Darren Peterson not going to be back. I feel fairly
Yeah.
safe saying that part. Flory, I'm not sure that Flory will be back. I think there's a lot of NBA people looking at Flory Badunga and kind of what they have there. And Bia, if he has a chance, if Cole Rosario, they could be guys that if they have really good years this year, they might not be back. But at the same time, if they return, if El Marco Jackson is back and has another year to, kind of put it all together, then all of a sudden you're talking about fitting these pieces like Kinney and maybe some of the other guys who can come in, hopefully Tyron Stokes.
Yeah, knock
Um,
on wood.
then you're fitting them into a roster that has some guys that have played and have been around a little bit. And I think that's when you start talking about, hey, 2026 could be a really strong team.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we're gonna be wishing the best for these guys, but some of the guys you mentioned, I mean, it's pretty easy to get on board with a roster that has Elmarco Jackson coming back for another year, Cole Rosario as a rising sophomore. I mean, you talk about a potential All Big 12 player as a sophomore, and he hasn't even played a game yet, but based on everything we've heard, Paul Mbia, I mean, there's your NBA guy right there.
Samis Calderon is a guy that has some rawness, but a lot of ability, know. And if you bring him back, he's another guy that you can kind of build around. And so, how those guys, one, how their season goes this year, but two, how they're able to develop in that off season, and if they all stick around, could really tell a tale on how good next year could be.
Right. And you throw Taylen Kinney on that, and it's like all of a sudden, okay, we don't have the past couple years where you're taking a magnifying glass trying to find the NBA guys. You look this year, you go, well, there's 3 or 4 or 5, and then next year there's 3 or 4 or 5. So it's exciting time. I don't think we're going to have the same situation where nobody's invited to the combine. I guess I'll put it that way. Any major thoughts? Last thing for you, Kevin, on the Big 12 schedule that came out. We didn't get a chance to ask you last week. It came out on Tuesday. Senior nights against K-State, KU, BYU, Allen Fieldhouse on January 31st. I'm glad Houston's coming back to Allen Fieldhouse after the game, which we will not speak of last year. But it's going to be a loaded slate. And November 18th, it's the nightcap, KU and Duke in the non-con. So a lot of exciting games.
Yeah, they didn't play Houston last year, right?
No, they didn't play.
It just never happened. I don't know why.
They had one game at the Fertitta Center at the end.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely didn't play here.
You're racking my brain. I can't remember.
But no, I think all of us would have loved to see BYU twice because the made for TV matchup. But at the same time, I love playing K-State twice, obviously, for rivalry reasons. Love playing Iowa State twice because I think that Iowa State is quite likely Kansas's biggest basketball rival in the Big 12. I feel safe.
At least past couple years.
Yeah, I feel safe saying that. And it felt a little weird the one year that they played Iowa State just the one time. So that was nice. Getting Arizona twice is fine. It's better than playing UCF twice, obviously. But probably would have loved it. Probably would have loved to see BYU in that sort of third spot to play twice.
Right. Well, hey, hot take. The game I'm most confident in Kansas winning the Big 12 season is BYU. Not just because of, obviously there's going to be a lot of pomp and circumstance, but after the game that you close your eyes during last year in Provo, KU owes them one, man. I mean, KU owes them one, and I think the Fieldhouse, the atmosphere is going to be great in all these. You got K-State on Senior Day, and Allen Fieldhouse is second.
So you're more confident in the BYU game than the K-State on Senior Night?
Oh, we're beating BYU. I mean, we'll beat K-State as well. We don't lose on Senior Night.
That's what I'm saying. That's why that's the most confident one for me. But
that's fine. I know. That's why I said hot take. KU is not happy after that Utah trip. Nobody was happy about that, but they got us good, and I think the Hawks are going to be ready. Coaching staff's going to be ready. We owe them a big one. But Kevin, really appreciate you coming on. Tell us what you got going on the Pay Heat Podcast, Kansas City Sports Network.
Yeah, we actually got out and saw Kansas commitment Josh Galbraith this past Friday, and so we'll be talking about it and breaking him down on the Verbal Commitment podcast. Saw Mill Valley out there, Kansas State commitment LaMarcus Barber as well, and so should be a really fun episode and getting a chance to talk about those guys. Galbraith had some huge hits in that game, and I'm not kidding when I tell you guys this is not hyperbole. He's one of the most athletic linebacker prospects in the entire country. Wow. And I don't think the recruiting sites have caught on to that, but he absolutely is. When you talk about a guy that's capable of running a 4.4 as a linebacker that plays above the rim in basketball, has that vertical leap, 35 to 40 inches as a linebacker. This is a guy that I think Chris Simpson is probably salivating about a little bit. Getting into that room, and especially maybe a year or two down the line, pairing him with a guy like John Kamara, where
Ooh.
you can have that kind of athleticism out there.
A guy you like keeping in Lawrence. Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
So let's put it that
absolutely.
way for sure. Kevin Flaherty from the Kansas City Sports Network joins us. And hey, Kevin, next week let's talk about a big road win for KU. We'll be feeling pretty good at 4-2, 2-1. So we'll make that happen. Appreciate it.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, guys.
After this, we're going to hear from Jalon Daniels post-game KU's loss to Cincinnati on Saturday. You're watching Rock Chalk Sports on KansasNation.com and listening to ESPN Kansas City.
This is Daniel Highshaw, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Let's hear from Jalon Daniels after KU's 37-34 loss to Cincinnati on Saturday.
Thank you.
Jalon, simplest question. How much does one like this sting?
It hurts, especially when you feel that, you didn't do enough to be able to put your team in the best position to be able to win games.
What happened on the fumble on that goal-to-go play?
I fumbled the ball. It just can't happen in those situations. That's a situation where if you score, you put your team in a good position to be able to win the game. And you fumble on less than the 5-yard line, you can't have plays like that. You can't.
You managed to come back and have a good drive the next time around. How did you sort of try to put that out of your mind after that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we were still down. You still got to be able to do what you can to be able to win the game. You can't let one mistake, make you shy away from being able to make more plays. And at the end of the day, that's the mentality that we had. No matter what's good or what's bad going on in this program, we're going to continue to keep striving to try to win.
Jalon, you got hit. Are you fighting for more yards when that fumble comes out? Or...
Yes and no. I knew there was multiple people who were tackling me at the same time, and I was trying to grab my arm to the other watch, but my other arm was being pulled by somebody else and my leg as well. So it was a great play by them. But at the end of the day, we do ball security every single day of the week. I have to be able to make sure that I had the ball secure in that situation.
Jalon, there were a couple of those red zone situations where you guys settled for field goals instead of touchdowns. Just what did you see in those? What did you think of your execution?
It's a game of football. At the end of the day, if you get points in the red zone, you're always doing good to be able to make sure that you're staying in the football game.
Jalon, this game was kind of a lot like last year. You guys in the fight the entire way, and it just kind of one score goes the other way. Is there something that you can take away from this that that you may have learned from last year about how to handle these one-score games?
You can compare it to last year if you'd like, but I feel like last year we were up a lot, and then they came back. Mm-hmm. We were fighting throughout the whole entire game this game, and that's why I have to give hats off to my entire team, because at the end of the day we stay resilient. No matter when we were down, no matter when we were up, we continued to fight every single play, and that's exactly how we just keep going about things in this program. Yeah, it sucks to be able to lose the game, but at the end of the day, I have no doubt in my head that this team is going to stay resilient no matter what's going on, and we're going to keep fighting.
You don't want to lose any of these games, but the roller coaster of emotions down the final stretch of this, does that make it sting a little bit to think we had this game right here, everything like that?
You can't live in what ifs. Living in what ifs don't get you anywhere. At the end of the day, what happened, and we have to be able to grow from what happened.
What's the mindset with 29 seconds left? You still got a shot.
Yeah, I have to be able to get the ball up there. I can't take a sack. I can't take it wasn't a sack on the very first play, but at the end of the day, we have to get the ball out of bounds. If it's not there, throw it out of bounds or try to give it to somebody. I tried to we had an out route to the left and a dig coming from the right. Peep that they covered too, the left side to the out. I probably had my check down right there. I got to be able to see it on film. And I probably would have been able to check that right there and be able to go out of bounds. But for me, I was trying to be able to get a chunk play. I knew we had one timeout left for 28 seconds, and we're already starting, I believe, on the 25-yard line. And we have to be able to get our field goal, our kicker in field goal position.
The way you guys move the ball, 600 yards offense, did you feel in that huddle before that drive, like, this is doable?
100%. At the end of the day, you never go in, no matter what play, no matter where you are on the scoreboard, you never go in thinking, all right, bro, it's not going to work. Right. You have to go in with positivity, and that's kind of where it was in the huddle. Like, at the end of the day, we didn't really care how much time was left. We felt like we would still be able to win the game.
With the amount of time you guys spend on these late game situations, I guess, how challenging is it not to get tangible rewards for all that time spent?
What do you mean by tangible rewards?
Like in these close games, you're not coming out on top, even with the time you guys spend on these 2-minute. How do you deal with that?
It doesn't really matter how much you're working hard on something. Things are going to happen. It doesn't matter what you continue to harp on every single time. There's going to be a different situation every single time. So, as much as we try to be able to work on these situations every single day, you still have to be able to, adjust when the game is happening. So, we're going to continue working on everything that we do every single week, and we just have to be able to grow from it.
First loss in Big 12 play. Now you hit 2 on the road. Just how important is this road stretch going to be for you guys?
For one, we have to be able to own what's on film. We're gonna go in, look at everything that happened on film and be able to grow from there. But at the end of the day, we believe in having a 1-0 mentality. Once these 24 hours is over, this game is gone, and then we're on the UCF.
Walk us through your perspective on that first play when the cornerback bites and you find Henderson.
Mm-hmm. So, a lot on film, they showed a lot of 3-down alignment. I believe on that play, they went to a 4-down, and they usually have a 3-safety high. They ended up bringing a Sam linebacker, and that made the field safety rotate into a cover 3. So he kind of got me right there in that situation because you're not supposed to really throw the out in that situation. The out was still there, but as soon as I was about to throw the out, I seen the corner think that I was about to throw the out. So he bit on the out, and I was like, okay, well, E-man's fast. So you're gonna have to keep up with that one.
Sure, it was a loss, but just reflecting on his journey, his career, what's it like to see him go for 214?
I mean, he's come in with the mentality of being hungry. No matter what's going on, he wants to be a part of everything. The extra work, the extra film, the extra studies, the extra everything. Everything that he can do to be able to put the team in the best position is what he's going to continue to do. And I think that just showed out on field today.
With all those big explosive plays today, how excited does that get you for moving forward this season?
It makes me excited. I mean, absolutely, because I know the firepower that we have in our offense. I mean, you guys gotten a chance to be able to see a lot of different moving parts of our offense throughout these last 5 games. So at the end of the day, we have to be able to come out with a win. So we're going to go into the lab this week and find a way to be able to get a win next week.
What did you think of how Bowden stepped up after Deshaun went out early?
Yeah, I mean, he's also one of those guys who's come in out the transfer portal, come in eager to work. As we said before the season, I said that our playbook is not the easiest playbook to be able to pick up off the bat, and he's done everything that he can to put himself in a position to be able to get on the field and make plays, and it's shown this season.
Yeah, when you've seen quarterbacks play because you got hurt, today you guys played 3 and you weren't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You enjoy watching those guys go out there?
100%. I mean, I got the chance to be able to watch Cole Ballard and Isaiah be able to make people miss, run people over, and that's always exciting because it gives the whole entire team like, okay, everybody's making plays right now. So you gotta keep on putting guys in those situations to be able to showcase different things on film.
When you're out wide like that, how hard are you selling it to the DB? Are you like, this ball's coming my way? I mean,
you can go ask Zero yourself. I told him every single time I got out there, I said, all right, 1-on-1s, let's go. The first time he was like, yeah, I'm a man, let's do it. The second time he was like, you lucky I'm not a man right now. So I'm like, it is what it is. I'm gonna keep running my route.
That's real though. That stuff, that talk happens.
100%.
Okay.
One more for you.
That's KU quarterback Jalon Daniels after the loss on Saturday. Hopefully a happier scene after the game at the Bounce House. Great name. Great name. I mean, you see
Space U. Don't
Stadium. Yeah, I mean,
don't they call themselves Space U? Because
right?
They have like the astronaut themed. Am I wrong about this? I'm not wrong about this.
No,
look
right.
this up.
I think they have some weird uniforms, and I feel like I've seen the Space U, though?
They have astronauts that graduated from UCF.
Yeah.
Yes. Look
so
this up.
UCF is interesting because they don't want to be called Central Florida.
Right.
And Bill Belichick got in trouble for calling them Central in advance of the game with UNC. And they also don't like being called the Golden Knights. So they are the UCF Knights.
What about the Argonauts? Remember when they were,
Yes.
they used to have like a little orange. It was like his body was an actual, like the fruit and orange, and he was like a spaceman.
Oh my gosh.
We
gotta find that. We gotta find that mascot. I do remember that.
We'll do a power ranking. How about this? I'll do a top 10 of old Big 12 mascots. I think that's what I'll do.
Mascots that need to come back.
Yeah, the UCF Argonauts, that's gonna be up there.
Anyway, well, the game's at the Bounce House in Orlando. Like we talked about, it is the biggest campus on the Big 12, which, did you know the Big 12 has 16 teams?
I did. And you know the Big 10 has 18 teams.
Yes, that's crazy. And all 18 of those teams in the Big 10 get to partake in the Big 10 tournament.
The Pac-12 only has 2 teams.
That's right. Pac-12, that's the weirdest one of all. The Pac-2 is still grinding. The ACC has teams that are on the Pacific Coast.
That's right.
So how about that?
Nothing makes sense anymore.
Anyway, KU, led by Jalon Daniels, who's having a fantastic season, as Kevin Flaherty alluded to a little bit earlier in the show, needs to knock off UCF. UCF, a team with a lot of question marks. This, to me, Dan, real quick before we throw it to a break and get to our Case of the Monday segment. I know we're going to talk UCF a lot more in detail as the week goes on. You got to win this game, and you got to win this game comfortably.
Yes.
I mean, you need to go out and establish that you're the better team. KU has a better roster up and down. than UCF. UCF has that nice win over North Carolina.
Right.
We don't really know how bad North Carolina is going to be. They have a decent win over Jacksonville State, who's a solid Group of 5 team, but they only
beat
won
them by a
7.
touchdown. Yeah.
And then obviously a 60-point drubbing of North Carolina A&T, but they've got question marks at quarterback. KU should be better in all 3 phases. I know it's looked at KU as a slight favorite. Hawks got to go out and just play better football, be better in some of those phases we talked about. 3rd down, red zone, win the turnover battle. Got to force some takeaways defensively. And if that happens, I expect KU to run away with this.
Yeah, UCF is very interesting because I feel like at this point in whatever it is, week 6, I guess after week 5, it feels like we don't really know what they are yet, right? Because they have that drubbing of North Carolina. But then K-State beat them. Like K-State, this is the worst K-State team we've seen in probably 15 years, right?
But I mean, K-State was expected to beat them.
True, that's very true. But it was 34 to 20.
K-State's not going to be a 2-10 team.
No, I understand that, but still, it's K-State's not very good. So it's kind of a tale of two. Like, is North Carolina just the worst team we've ever seen, or is K-State maybe better than what we thought they were going to be, even after almost losing to North Dakota and losing a couple of bad games here and there? So I think UCF's going to have maybe a chip on their shoulder, and also going down to Orlando in terms of travel, in terms of it being the first true away game where you're not going to have fans travel out to Orlando, at least not nearly enough fans as what we maybe saw against Mizzou. So it is going to be interesting, and like you said, with their whole quarterback situation kind of up in arms, and it's kind of a similar situation to Rich Rod, right, at West Virginia, where Rich Rod came back to West Virginia. Scott Frost, he's back at UCF now. I'm excited to see how the second Scott Frost reign at UCF is going to kind of, be in the future, as also in terms of this year as well. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I have no idea what this line is even going to be. If they even, I didn't see any lines officially come out yet for the KU UCF game. I don't know if Kansas is going to be a big favorite, a small favorite, or if they're even going to be favorited at all. So we'll certainly see. But yeah, I think this UCF team, it's a little bit of fool's gold from that North Carolina game, because I think North Carolina's line is bad, and I still think K-State's bad. So I feel confident about this game.
3-1 is the record for UCF. They were 3-0 in the non-con before losing 34-20 to K-State. KU, of course, 3-2 overall, 1-1 in conference play. Kickoff 6:30 from the Bounce House on Saturday. After this, our Case of the Monday segment on Rock Chalk Sports. Thanks for listening to ESPN Kansas City and watching KansasNation.com.
Hey, this is Cole Ballard, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
Kellerman and Daniel Courtwright back with you for Rock Chalk Sports. Hey, it's time for our Case of the Mondays segment. Not the most successful weekend in KU athletics history, but still some good news. KU volleyball picked up a win yesterday over Arizona, swept through the Wildcats, and that was nice after another fifth set heartbreaker Friday night where KU lost to number 8 ASU. But vibes are good in the Matt Ulmer coach program. Also, KU soccer, a couple tough ones. Thursday, they had lost to Baylor and then lost 3-2 to top 10 ranked TCU on Sunday, but still a lot of confidence in Coach Nate Lee's program as well. And the football loss we had also on Saturday, but huge news that came out yesterday that we're going to talk about a little bit more detail with Taylen Kinney for KU basketball. So overall, a couple good pieces of news.
Yeah, I think it was a little back and forth, right? KU soccer and football, obviously not great, but Kansas did lose in 5 sets to Arizona State. Came back and swept Arizona in volleyball, and then the Chiefs won yesterday, so that was huge.
Yeah, we'll mention that a little bit earlier. The Chiefs looked like the Chiefs.
The Chiefs looked like the Chiefs. The Ravens did not look like the Ravens.
It is a case of the Mondays for them.
For sure.
The bottom line is one of those two teams is going to be feeling terrible after yesterday.
True.
Chiefs were underdogs. They were getting 2.5, and that's what they're supposed to look like.
I know.
Right? That's what the offense is supposed to look like. That's what the box score is supposed to look like. Your boy, Isaiah Pacheco, connecting on the plus 205, as I expected. And yeah, I mean, it just overall was a dominant performance.
By the way, I heard this is the first time that Patrick Mahomes had a 4-touchdown, 0-interception game since 2022 October against the Raiders. The Chris Jones roughing the passer penalty when he landed on, or when Derek Carr fumbled the ball. Chris Jones had the ball, and they called it it roughing the passer. That was the last game that Patrick Mahomes had a 4-touchdown, 0-interception game.
The Chiefs have not. I don't know if you saw the graphic they put up during the game yesterday, but from 2019 to 2022 or whatever, the Chiefs had the number one offense pretty much every category.
Yeah.
But the last 3 seasons, it's been middling, which is crazy because you still look at the Chiefs' offense as that big juggernaut, right? But it hasn't quite been that. It was kind of nice seeing that. And now the Ravens are looking in the mirror at 1-3.
Right.
Chiefs are 2-2, and now you get Jacksonville, who's a team that, hey, they're no longer the team that you can just walk over, right? That's not an automatic bye week victory, whatever you want to call it. They just won at San Francisco. I had no idea that San Francisco was 3-0 entering that game.
Yeah, I know. It is weird.
That was strange.
Yeah.
But the Jags won. Got to take them for real. And that's shaping up to be a nice little Monday night affair coming up a week from today.
Yeah, by the way, did you see after the I guess we can start here. I didn't have it on here, but Case of the Mondays for Robert Saleh. After the Jags 49ers game, Liam Cohen went up to Robert Saleh and said, "Keep your name out my mouth." There's a little coaches beef. That was fun to see. By the way, Robert Saleh would
I would take Robert Saleh.
Absolutely. But I like that. There was a little fire under Liam Cohen. I like him as a coach. And now the way that he became coach, a little shady, obviously, saying that his son was sick to go do an interview and all that different kind of stuff. But he's obviously proving himself. I think that, again, I've told you this. I'm not out on the Jags. I'm not out on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
I'm not out on Brian Thomas.
You're willing to give Trevor Lawrence 5 or 6 more years, and then you'll make a decision on him, whether or not you're out. All right, Case of the Mondays for of course, we're going to start with the National Hockey League. Dan,
of course.
Tell us about the San Jose Sharks.
Yes, so the San Jose Sharks, it's Case of Mondays for them because they are doing a little bit of stolen valor. They're taking a page out of Auburn's book. They have put up a banner inside of their arena that said that they won the President's Trophy in 2015 to 2016, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the hockey season only goes through 1 year. So they have 15 and 16 as their President's Trophy. They didn't win the President's Trophy in 2015 nor 2016. 2015, it was New York Rangers. 2016, it was the Washington Capitals. So I have no idea why they decided to put up a banner from 2015 and 2016. They haven't won the President's Trophy since 08 and 09.
What's the reasoning? Did they give any sort of reason?
No, I have no idea. Maybe they're just claiming it. Like I said, they might be taking a page out of Auburn's handbook or something. But this is so strange to me that they just put up a banner. I mean, because we make fun of banners, like K-State's NIT banner, or the Colts had that 2014 AFC finalist banner that they put up just for making the playoffs that 1 year. But this is
it's K-State. It's a K-State specialty.
This is complete stolen valor, though. I mean, this is like Oklahoma State's 1945 national championship, which they just claimed.
I guess you could put anything on a shirt, right?
True.
You can put whatever you want on a shirt.
You can claim whatever you want. So, and here's the thing: if they can do this, Kansas should do this with the 2018 Final Four because they actually went. I know. It's a whole thing. I'm aware.
Yes, KU went to the Final Four. I remember watching the Elite Eight game against Duke. God, epic game.
Great
Steve Mikhailuk, huge shot. Malik Newman, GOAT status. 32 points, all 13 of KU's in overtime. KU won that one by 3.
I have a shirt and a sweatshirt and a hat that says 2018 Final Four. So
I don't know what the Sharks are doing there. Hey, it's a Case of the Mondays, though, for James Franklin. After losing to Oregon 30-24 in overtime, the Penn State head coach is now 4-21 against AP top 10 teams. First of all, that is an insane number of games to go up against AP top 10 teams.
It's a lot.
25, and he's 4-21. I saw something that said James Franklin is the Drew Aller of head coaches. So that's so bad.
That's so funny.
I like Drew Aller. I mean,
that's so good.
By the way, Penn State's uniforms are like top 5 of my favorite in college football.
Same. Well, in terms of
so
tradition,
good.
I like them. They're not too flashy.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Notre Dame / West Virginia's.
Right. Yeah. Both of them. You just throw both of them in
the
there.
same.
Yeah, they're the exact same. It's kind of like the Packers and then the ones that. Do you remember this? So the Green Bay Packers had the airbrushed leather helmets, and they just completely ripped off Illinois from last year, I think. I mean.
James
Penn
Franklin,
State,
man, brutal.
by the way, what an electric game. Drew Aller just completely wet the bed at the end.
This game was 3-3 at the half, I think. By the way, the
It
over-under
was.
was 53.5.
That's yeah.
And
Well,
Oregon won
there
30
you go.
to 24.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's crazy.
But it's a case of Mondays for Indiana too, because Penn State right now they're ranked ahead of Indiana. They beat Illinois by 53 points, who was a ranked team. Penn State, they played nobody in the non-conference. They just lost at home. Now, granted, it was against Oregon. Penn State's ranked 7th. Indiana's ranked 8th. Now, Indiana didn't have a very tough non-conference either, but they still have a win against a ranked team. Penn State does not.
Aren't they facing each other?
They should be soon. Is that going to be this week?
Aren't they facing each other? Is that the upcoming game?
It might be this week.
I gotta see. We're both mad Googling it right now. November 8th is when they face each other, and it is in Happy Valley, so Penn State probably wins that game.
I like Indiana, man. I think that they're a pretty solid team. They completely shut me up after they beat the brakes off of Illinois. So shout out to them. James Franklin, like you said, 4-21 against top 10 teams, 2-21 against top 6 teams. So
that's crazy.
They just make a living off of being in the top 10, but not being able to beat anybody in the top 10.
Uniforms are awesome. The stadium's awesome. And then
the whiteout's great.
They killed SMU. Good for them last year in the college football playoff. But yeah,
man.
Case of the Mondays for Landry Kiffin, right?
That's right. Case of the Mondays for LSU. So we'll start here with Whit Weeks. So Whit Weeks, as you know, is noted boyfriend of Lane Kiffin's daughter, also the starting linebacker for LSU. They played Ole Miss. Ole Miss wound up beating LSU. It was a great win for Ole Miss. And if you were watching the game, Whit Weeks actually during the game threw up while he was out there. And there's a hilarious tweet. As we know, Lane Kiffin likes to troll people online. There's a tweet that said, "What did Landry give Whit Weeks? He's out here throwing up on Skycast. He was throwing up." Lane Kiffin just tweeted under it, and he said, "Tempo."
Yeah.
So saying, hey, Whit Weeks can't keep up with our tempoed offense, which is great. And then also, Juice Kiffin, Lane Kiffin's dog, has his own Twitter account.
Ah, good.
Which, yeah, don't you love that?
I'm sure that's your favorite thing.
Yeah, no, I am not, by the way, I'm not crazy about people who, I know plenty of people who, hopefully this could get me in trouble because I know a lot of people who have Instagrams for their dogs. I'm not crazy about people who have like social media accounts for their dogs.
There goes 60% of your friends.
I know, right? Yeah, no kidding. But Lane Kiffin has an Instagram account for his dog. I don't know if Lane Kiffin actually runs it or whatever, but Juice Kiffin, Lane Kiffin's dog, tweeted out a hat. He said, "New hat just dropped," and we have a visual for it too. The hat says, "Brian Kelly can't run the damn ball."
Mm-hmm.
What I mean, if Lane Kiffin is actually running Juice Kiffin's account,
who do you think's actually running that?
Hilarious. Maybe Landry.
No.
You don't think it's Landry?
No, that'd be quite the be quite the story though.
Or maybe it's his like 23-year-old girlfriend. Because Lane Kiffin, he's got a young girlfriend. She might be. I mean, she's definitely older than
like Jordan Hudson young.
Yeah, I think she's older than Jordan Hudson, but they're close to the same. But also, Lane Kiffin's a younger person. He's
20
not,
years
Lane
younger.
Kiffin's not 76 years old.
Belichick.
But shout out to Juice Kiffin, man. Juice Kiffin. Brian Kelly can't run the damn ball. You love to see some trash talk from coaches' dogs, I guess, if you will. This is the first time that we've seen some trash talk between a coach's dog and a coach.
It won't be the last, man. The internet's a crazy place. Hey, a couple baseball things you want to fit in. First of all, the Detroit Tigers. So they didn't completely blow it, all right?
Sure.
And the fact that they are in the postseason. But the Tigers completely blew the AL Central. Yesterday was the last day of the Major League Baseball season, which shout out to Carter Jensen of the Kansas City Royals, hitting a 482-foot homer in the state capital of Sacramento. Royals beat the A's 9-2.
I can't wait to see him for the rest of the season.
So they did not go 81-81, which is my prediction. They go 82-80. Back-to-back winning seasons for the Royals for the first time since 14-15. But Jensen's homer was the longest hit by a Royal in the StatCast era.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Maybe we should have called him up a couple months ago. But anyway, good vibes, I guess. Royals have a lot of pitching going into next year. But anyway, the Tigers, who were, 1,000,000% going to win the American League Central, blew it.
Minus 10,000.
They were 86-75 as Cleveland was going into the final day, and Cleveland had the tiebreaker. So Detroit needed to win and Cleveland to lose. Detroit about half an hour before the Cleveland game ended, lost. So when that happened, Cleveland, still playing their game, clinched the AL Central.
Man.
But you know how this works in sports. You know, you don't want to win by default, right? So
Yeah.
Cleveland goes out, and they know that if they win this game, then they're going to have a better record. They're not going to win the Central by having the same record in a tiebreaker, right? So you still want to win. It doesn't
Yeah,
really
of
matter.
course.
You're going to be the same seed or
It's a
whatever.
pride thing.
But it was 5-5 in the bottom of the ninth. Cleveland wasn't able to score. Go to extra innings. Cleveland's opponent, the Rangers, score 3. They score 3 in the top of the either 10th or 11th, and it was 8-5. And granted, you get the ghost runner on second or whatever, but still, that's 3 runs you got to score.
Yeah.
Cleveland scores a run. It's 8-6. They've got guys first and second, and Brian Rocchio, who's got 4 homers on the year, belts a 3-run homer off the foul pole. Electric.
Love it. I love
Cleveland
that.
walks it off 9-8,
That's
and
so
they
fun.
end up a game better than Detroit. And the postseason picture is pretty cool now, because now you get those teams facing off against each other.
Right, yeah.
And Scooble's going to go for Detroit, but that's the first game tomorrow when the MLB season officially starts at 12:08. And it's just a rivalry that's continued, and now there's going to be some bad blood. Granted, if Detroit wins this, which now they don't have home field advantage, but if they win the series, they kind of erase the terrible things that happened in the month of September. But the other thing you get is Yankees-Red Sox. Winner of that goes on to the next round as well. Blue Jays are the 1 seed. Seattle is the 2 seed.
Yeah, the AL wild card is
Yeah.
2 awesome games.
I like when it's Red Sox, Yankees, and the ALCS.
Yeah,
rather
true.
than wild card,
Yeah,
even
right,
though
right.
we don't want the big markets or whatever, but still, it's fun that that's a series in general. And then the National League, obviously, Phillies and Dodgers are in a good spot. We'll see how
Yeah.
that goes. But
Man, the Brewers,
a lot of excitement.
The Brewers just won't lose.
They won't lose, and
They're great.
still they got to prove it. They have not
I know.
won in quite some time. So we'll see how that goes. Exciting 4 games tomorrow. I like how baseball does it though. There's 4 games. It's a best of 5. All 4 series start tomorrow, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everybody plays. It's not the stupid NBA. Oh, we're going to play on Wednesday, and then our next game's not going to be until Monday, and then we're not going to play until Friday. Like, let's get out there and let's play.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
decide this. So
I love playoff
anyway.
baseball. Even though the Royals aren't in it, I still love playoff baseball. Hey, case of the Monday is for Mississauga College. So fall ball is happening right now for college baseball around the nation. Iowa, the University of Iowa, they played Mississauga, and you probably never even heard of Mississauga. That's fine. Iowa beat Mississauga 31-3 in baseball. Obviously, a giant win. It happened in extra innings.
I don't understand this.
I have a million questions, and the first one is: did they have a 28-run 11th inning?
That's what people are saying. Did you ever figure this out?
So
We were talking about this
I
earlier.
think that this is what it was. So the game was 3-3 after the 9th. So they went to extras. Nobody scored in the 10th. 11th came around. Iowa scored 28 runs. How is this possible?
I think it's because they have separate rules. They have separate rules for fall ball. I think that's the only thing that happened is they were playing an extended inning game. They were playing an extended inning. I don't think they scored 28 in one.
Okay, fine.
In fact, it looks like they ended up playing 14 innings. Iowa won officially 31-4. But yeah, the game was 18-0 in the 6th.
Sure.
I know, but I was so so
dumb.
confused. I was like, "There's no way they scored 28 runs in an inning." But
Dang it! I was hoping it was a
we should
because just looking at that,
I know
off the you're
it's
like
just a very strange thing. Yeah, because it's way cooler saying 31-3 in the 11th inning than 31-3 in the 9th. I mean, you're still gonna be like, "Oh my God, they scored 31 runs," but it's like 31-3 in the 11th. What just happened?
Yeah,
top of the 11th.
Shout out to Mississauga.
Oh man, brutal loss. But hey, that's what fall ball's for, right?
That's
they're
exactly
practicing.
right. When does KU fall? We should know this.
They've got a game against K-State.
They do have a game against K-State. It's the same day as the border showdown in football as well. So we'll keep you up to date
look
on
that up. Case of the Mondays for Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler, the former Oklahoma and South Carolina legend, had his birthday yesterday, and the Saints, led by Rattler, were on the cusp of a crazy, shocking win over the Buffalo Bills. That's probably strong, but they did have a chance, I guess, to win it. They lose, and now Spencer Rattler, after losing on his birthday, also Tyler Shuck's birthday, shout out to the Saints quarterbacks, shout out to former Big 12 quarterbacks, 0-10 now, Rattler is, as an NFL starter. He has never won a game. He's won as many as you have.
Man. So he's 0-10. 0-10. What's the longest anyone's ever gone without winning a game?
That's a good question. That's got to be up there, right?
You would think.
I mean, even Thigpen got one once in a while.
Right. Like, it's probably...
I mean, usually if you're like,
you think like Brody Croyle maybe might be in there.
They don't get that many chances though.
That's
I mean, once
true,
you're like
yeah.
0-5, people are like running this guy out of town.
Yeah, you start to get on the bench. Like how
Saints are a mess.
obviously like what else are the Saints going to do? Spencer Rattler has to be their guy.
They're a mess.
That is 0-10. 0-10. That's gotta be the record.
Sight.
I mean that
no end in sight because he's not playing bad enough to where they're gonna put in Tyler Shuck, right?
You would think.
Let's see. Let's see. The Saints next week have they get the football Giants at home.
Which they just beat the Chargers.
There's a chance they can win that game, though, right?
They just beat the Chargers.
I mean, they're probably
Jackson Dart looks good.
I mean, the Saints are probably what +3.5 that game. That would be my guess. I mean,
I'm always
They got the Giants at home, and then the Patriots at home, and then they're at the Bears. They could maybe get a win in there.
What is my motto?
Fade the worst team in the league.
Correct.
And decide
also,
that
I'll try anything twice, but
yeah,
fade the Saints. Fade the Saints is what I'm always going to go with, which, by the way, did not work out for me because they were a 15.5-point dog, and they ended up covering. So,
speaking of the Giants, who the Saints take on, it's Case the Mondays for them because your boy, Malik Neighbors, out for the year, torn ACL. He posted on Instagram a little bit earlier today saying sorry with a broken heart emoji, which, you feel bad for him, especially because there's so much excitement. I mean, all of a sudden, the Giants went from having a roster to laugh at, where, no disrespect to Tyrone Tracy, he's an okay back, and you got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. All of a sudden, we'll see what happens, but Jackson Dart looks fun. Cam Scatteraboo is obviously that dude. There's your two rookies, and then you got Malik Neighbors as well. That's all of a sudden fun, but Neighbors now out for the year. Giants did beat the Chargers, which Chiefs fans appreciate.
Right. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. That means Chiefs are one game back technically. I guess the Chargers have 2 AFC West wins. So
right.
Or no,
well, they've got
3.
They've got the heads up in all 3 games.
Right. That's right.
But still, I mean, that's huge because when the Chiefs were 0-2. And the Chargers were clear path to 3-0. That was big to win at the Giants and then to beat the Ravens.
Yeah,
but Giants fans, hey, you know what? It's Case the Mondays because you lost Neighbors, but at the same time, Scatteraboo, he's that guy. I mean, he's not losing that job to Tyrone Tracy.
No.
And Danger Russ Wilson is going to be enjoying the twilight of his career
on the bench. Yeah, that sucks. Which it does. Malik Neighbors going out sucks for the Giants because the Giants, like after Odell left, they had the stretch of wide receivers that they had. Like you had to, if you were a Giants fan, you had to get excited about like
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, and you're like, those guys are like number 3s on every other team in the league, but they had to be your number 1 and number 2 guys, and it wasn't able to work out. So now they had a light at the end of the tunnel with Malik Neighbors, and obviously going down with an ACL injury. Nobody wishes that on anybody. So it really sucks. I like Malik Neighbors a lot. He's a really, really awesome player. Speaking of wide receivers, Case the Mondays for A.D. Mitchell, former Longhorn legend. So the Colts were playing against the Rams. Colts, by the way, 3-0 going into this game. It was a, it was like a 76-yard touchdown by Adonai Mitchell. Dime from Daniel Indiana Jones. Adonai Mitchell running into the end zone, tries to extend the ball, fumbles it at the 1-yard line, and it goes out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. Colts wind up losing by a touchdown.
Yeah. People are still doing this. By the way, I do want to shout out your boy. I know a fantasy team legend of yours, Tutu Atwell, had an 88-yard touchdown catch.
Yeah, Tutu Atwell.
So good for him. But yeah, no, they lose. People are still doing that. They're worried about the celebration. Just hold on to the football for another half a yard and then celebrate.
Right.
It literally is the most crushing thing in football, right?
Oh.
Fumbling through the end zone. It has to be.
It has to be fumbling through the end zone, or that one was bad because he was trying to extend it. I think he was trying to celebrate, and it just bobbled out of his hands and went through the back of the end zone. The worst ones though are when they they're running, and then they drop the ball behind them.
Oh yeah,
Whenever they do this,
like,
and they drop the ball behind them at the 1 yard line. That happened at
it's like
Oregon,
the lunge
Utah,
in a track.
Yes,
But you make sure to leave the football behind you. It's bad.
Man, it's horrible.
It's
yeah,
bad.
that happened in Utah, Oregon a few years ago. That was like the first time I saw it, and I was like, oh, and Oregon. No whistles were blown. The ball was sitting at the 1 yard line, and Oregon player just picked it up and like kind of jogged over to the other side. And they're like, "Hey, touchdown, Oregon!" So,
brutal.
Oh man, heartbreaking for A.D. Mitchell. They wind up losing by a touchdown. That cost him the game.
We ended up talking about the Chargers, but it is a case of Monday for Justin Herbert, as Jackson Dart, who we also spoke of, he posted before the Giants-Chargers, which was the 0-3 Giants against the 3-0 Chargers,
Sure.
a picture on Instagram of Madison Beer,
Oh,
noted girlfriend of Justin Herbert, and then quickly took it off.
maybe
But
he's just a fan.
he posted a picture of Madison Beer and said "Game Day," I think was the caption or something like that. So, So after that, I'm thinking, oh man, this dude's gonna lose. But he went out and he beat Justin Herbert.
He showed up, man.
But yeah, that is a strange flex. Before you even start a game in the NFL, I don't know. I kind of draw the line at posting a picture of somebody else's.
See, but that's
girl.
the thing. Like I said, maybe he's just a fan. Maybe he's just a fan of Madison Beer, and that's his pregame.
Totally.
He's like, oh, I didn't even. Justin, I didn't know you were
realize
dating her.
it.
Oh, that's
Didn't realize
what
it.
a crazy coincidence. Sorry, jeez.
Also,
my
a case of
bad.
Monday for Cam Ward, who said that the Titans are playing like yes,
ASS
booty.
He said, to keep it a buck, we right now, which is fair. I have him on my fantasy team. He scored like 4 points. It was awful.
Who else is on your fantasy team?
Let me go through
so
the list.
we got K-State quarterbacks in Ireland. What's this about, Dan?
Oh man, yeah. Case of the Mondays for K-State quarterbacks in Ireland. They are not having a good time. This is just a terrible story, obviously. So this is for Tom Pelissaro. Steelers trip to Dublin wasn't without some drama. Says sources say backup quarterback Skylar Thompson got jumped and robbed on Friday night in Dublin. He's on the IR, suffered minor injuries. He is okay, and he's with the team, so we are happy about that, obviously. Steelers came out with a statement that said, we are aware of the situation involving Skylar Thompson on Friday night in Dublin. We will have no further comment at this time, working with the NFL security to gather more information regarding the incident. But, you look back at week 0, K-State in Dublin. We saw Avery Johnson's dad and Avery Johnson's brother getting into a fight, and then Skylar Thompson getting jumped in Dublin. I mean, do they just not like Wildcats? Or is it what's the opposite of the luck of the Irish, I guess, right? The K-State quarterbacks do not have the luck of the Irish when it comes to being in Ireland.
They've not been having a good time.
Nope.
At least he's back. That's good.
Okay.
The former Dolphin legend.
I wouldn't be talking about this if he wasn't okay.
He's okay, but
fine,
that is strange that happened in Dublin.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, that is absolutely wild. But yeah, thankfully he is okay, obviously.
I am so upset because I was all in on Taylor Swift being the headliner for the Super Bowl, but it's Case of the Mondays for her because it's going to be the Dark Rabbit.
Yes, Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny
is going to be. What's your favorite? What
are your top 25 Bad Bunny songs?
Yeah. What
are your top 25? No, let's hear them.
You see, you wouldn't know any of them, so I'm not even going to bother.
Give me 25 good reasons why you don't listen to Bad Bunny.
I've listened to Bad Bunny before. He was great in Happy Gilmore 2.
Well, first of all,
he was great in Happy Gilmore 2. But you didn't even know he was in that movie, did you?
No, I haven't seen it. But yeah, I was all in. I thought the stars were aligning for our girl T Swift.
Maybe they saw the Chiefs were starting off 1 and 2, and they're like, Chiefs won't make the Super Bowl, so let's scramble, find somebody else. Let's go. They pulled a name out of a hat. Said, pulled a rabbit out of a hat, if you will.
The rabbit. I see what you did there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
One more here. Case the Mondays for
the U.S. of A.
Lost the Ryder Cup.
Man, tough, but. Also, Rory McIlroy was kind of going after some fans. Also, fans were going after him.
I saw some videos of this.
So some fans were throwing beers at him and screaming, "F you, Rory," like this kind of stuff. I agree. As much as
why were we being mean to him?
As much as I don't want to be on Rory's side, I am a little bit on Rory's side because it did get a little out of hand. I saw some videos of some different things, and it was getting a little like it's fun to chirp back and forth. And Rory actually had a good point. He's like, look, chirp all you want, but he's like, honestly, he heard no support for Scotty Scheffler, and it was all just bad mouthing Rory. He's like, support your guy.
Yeah.
Like you say, hey, let's go, Scotty,
there's
or
a
whatever.
line in trash talk. I mean, there's no reason to
Well, did you see that it was there is a line in trash talk, obviously, and I think it went over the line, but the crowd was just so rambunctious. There was an MC at the Ryder Cup, and they started doing the stomp, stomp, clap, stomp, stomp, clap, and they did Scotty, Scotty, Scheffler, and the MC was trying to do that, and they started booing her. They were like, boo, no, we don't want to do that. We want to keep talking trash to Rory or whatever. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was like,
Trying to drown
you
it
know,
out.
like try to cheer on you. So that's where I think it's gotten a little. It's just gotten more negative than positive, I guess. There's fun trash talking. It used to be like that in the Ryder Cup, obviously, years past, but this year just felt a little different. It was a little weird. So I don't know, but Europe came out on top. Unfortunately, I was rooting for the USA, obviously. Yeah, it's just Rory, just because after the whole, remember when he took that guy's phone, and Rory's just he's been on like a weird year of just becoming unlikable. He used to be really likable, and then just came really not so unlikable. So that's why, as much as I hate to be on Scotty or on Rory McIlroy's side here, I do understand that like he had a great point of like, hey, instead of saying F you Rory, say let's go Scotty instead. Stop being so negative and start, kind of going in a positive way. I don't know. It sucks for the USA though. Lost to Bethpage Black on our home turf, and just unfortunate, man. Unfortunate. By the way, the Ryder Cup needs to be on a different.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world of sports right now. There's a loaded college football Saturday as well in the middle of this, and NFL Sunday, MLB playoffs. There was a ton on the line yesterday as well. So, yeah, who knows? But anyway, that's our Case of the Monday segment for today. Hopefully next Monday, we're talking about KU over UCF in Orlando. That's the big talk of this week. Got to get past that Cincinnati game and focus on getting win number 4 this season. After this, we're going to hear from Lance Leipold post-game the loss on Saturday on Rock Chalk Sports. Thanks for listening to ESPN Kansas City and watching KansasNation.com.
This is Dale Highshaw, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports. It's also a Case of the Mondays, Dan, for the New York Mets. They have the second highest payroll in all of baseball, and they are not part of the 12-team MLB playoffs.
Man.
Eliminated yesterday as the Cincinnati Redlegs are on their way to the wildcard round.
I would say how much of that second most is going just towards Juan Soto?
A lot. But they're paying some people. Soto and Pete Alonso, who's electing for free agency, it sounds like, and Frankie Lindor as well. Hey, KU lost to Cincinnati, a tough one. Let's hope it's the last heartbreaking loss of the season. Hopefully it's the last loss of the season. You never know. On Saturday, 37-34 over Cincinnati. Let's hear from Coach Leipold postgame.
Lance, I know it's pretty quick, but just first thoughts on the last couple of minutes of this one and where you fell short.
Well, the one that people will talk about, of course, we have a chance for a tip ball interception, and we're close, but again, I don't know if we played real confidently in coverage all day, to be honest, we started to create some pressure. I thought we did some, that's a good quarterback. He took shots. He put the ball where it needed to. He spread it around. They had a good game plan on attacking us, and they executed. Now, you want to be better. You want to tackle better. You want to be able to make consistent things, but we just didn't do enough.
And how are you sort of navigating the idea of preserving time there as they're inside the 5 at the 2? Are you trying to save some time? Are you thinking about that?
Are you thinking are we gonna they scored right away on one play. Are we gonna let them score or whatever? It's kind of a and guys, we can it's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas in this game, and of course I'm sure and there's more of you that have those type of questions, but I can go back to why did we score on second down and not third down and wait and kind of do some things? But we felt we had a really good call on second down that would be successful. Third down, we haven't been great in third down percentages, and again, then you're getting into going to win the game or kicking a field goal to tie. So again, sometimes this team lost the game, not one side of the ball lost the game today, guys. We turned the ball over inside the 5-yard line. We did other things today that can be scrutinized, and not just the last minute, whatever. So, But there's a time when you have a chance to score in that you got to try to make a stop. But again, when they got in rhythm, I think we got on our heels at times, and I think I thought up front we got a little more aggressive. I think they probably wore down a little bit up front. We started to get a little more pressure, but I still don't know how confidently and aggressively we played in the back part really all day.
You mentioned the fumble, and there were a couple of times where you guys kind of faltered at the goal line. What did you make of some of those goals to go situations where you settled for field goals earlier on?
Yeah, our red zone efficiency wasn't where it needed to be early in the game, and you probably bring up other great points that we got to look at. That again, if we score touchdowns and not kick field goals, but then maybe we're in a better mood in here today. So, but I just want to make sure they have 1 or 2 field goals themselves. 2. Yeah, they had 2 field goals, so they probably feel the same way. And they're, that's, anytime you get a stop. But you're right. We could be cleaner. We have a bad snap inside the 5, inside the, we're going in to score, and then we fumble. All those things are just little things that we got to be better at holistically.
And then what did you make of Bengal's targeting?
Hard to see from my point. I really haven't seen enough of it. What'd you think of it?
I'm not sure, really. I mean, it was after the play, but I don't know.
Yeah, the interpretation for me is, I don't know if this gets me fined or not, but Colin will cover it. So, they said head and neck area, but shoot, you can see that on a lot of hits in the pocket when guys are, if it's in this area. So I don't know. That it was unfortunate. I don't know, that obviously it wasn't called on the field. It was called from up above. So I don't know. I really thought that we had gotten into a lot better spot calling targeting. And now it seems to kind of have reverted itself back to being a lot more frequent than where it was a year or so ago.
Lance, I think you guys felt at 1-6 in one-score games over the last 2 years. Is there any themes that are kind of emerging, or something you want to change from what you've seen on the tape?
I wish I could. If I knew what it was, we would be doing it. Okay, and some of those things, I think everyone has got a little different twist to it, and not surprising that question's asked, and we need to be better. Like I said, it's happened maybe before. I guess this year on either side, we have different people calling defenses. We have different people calling offensive plays. We have different players out there playing this year, so it isn't like it's one thing. So I can tell you that we have worked 2-minute drills to nauseam this year, and situational football has been covered more than ever before. And but obviously we got to do more, and I need to do better, and we'll continue to look for that.
Yeah, Emmanuel Henderson kind of had a special game today. I think the most receiving yards since 2017 for a guest receiver. What do you make of this day?
Yeah, pretty explosive day. Again, the first play of the game was exciting, and again, when we score early, I don't know. Sometimes do we get over? Is it a confidence thing? Do we keep the throttle down? I don't know if we're doing a good enough job there. Obviously, he had another big play then in the second half that got us going. But again, he's played some really good football for us, and he and Jalon make a good combination. I thought, all in all, I thought our receivers had a good day. I think the different guys stepped up and made plays for us, and again, that we knew it would be tough in some ways just to consistently run the ball on them. I think I said that to you guys on Monday. So for us to be able to mix some things in and throw it as well we did was definitely a plus.
You mentioned some of Cincinnati's deep passes. From what you heard on the headset, or let's start here, what were they doing to put so much pressure on the defensive backfield? And then on the headset, from what you heard, what sort of adjustments were made?
Again, we're mixing up different coverages. We're trying different things. We're in different packages. We're trying to mix things up to help the pass rush. We're helping things to play different coverages, from nickels to dime. We got our base personnel. We got our, a lot of different things there. Again, some communication issues. Some was like I said, confident with cushion and things like that. That I think we've got to be able to play with. And again. you know, there's a couple of you guys that are still pretty young football players that I think probably had one of their bigger tests this game as much as any other that are throwing the ball on a consistent basis.
You mentioned struggling a little bit on third and fourth down. Just thinking back over the course of the season, I know what frustrates you most, but what are the themes you you're noticing of some of those situations?
That's something as the game went down, as I kind of looked at and think at half, I don't know if we were 1 for 5 or 6 or something at half, and it's something that I know that, as we get into this week a little more, really need to dive in. What's our theme? What's, is there a game plan issue? Is there a common execution issue? Are we getting something there? But then again, we made some other plays on there as well. I should look here. What did we end up for the day? 7? No, that was them. We're 3 for 9 on there, 2 for 2 on fourth down. So again, if you look at the third downs and then convert them into fourth, you're the third downs are still part of that other one. So if you're 5 for 9 on that series, right? So it's probably a little bit better, but we need to be better on third down.
And for you holistically, just 3-2, 1-1 Big 12. How do you feel about your team right now?
We got a lot of work to do. Now we got a big test, got to go on the road for a couple of weeks. We're going to, as I told the team, I said, you better get used to this because this is the way this conference is. And you got a lot of new players that maybe haven't been in this conference or haven't been in this program. You got to be able to understand that there's going to be tons of close football games in the Big 12. And you better embrace it and you better find a way to flip the script and make these things go our way. And that starts on Monday when they walk in the building and what we take off this film and how we move forward towards UCF.
Coach, back here, you talked about there were some positive things in this one. The guys come back from that deficit late in the second half. Jalon goes for 500 yards, but there's also the frustrating part of it as well. Just kind of what's your overall takeaway? What do you say to the guys after this?
Well, I told them at halftime that we were in the football game, but hadn't really played very well. And we're pretty much surviving at that time because we can play a lot better. And I said, we'll have a chance to see what the team will really be about moving forward in the last 30 minutes. And that I told them I was proud because they kept fighting and they kept playing. And I thought we played hard and there's some execution things and all that we all got to do better. But I'm proud of that point of that. And I told them that. But as I tell them after every win and every loss, when you walk in the building on Monday and when you turn on the film, you've got to own what's there and you got to be coachable and you got to find that and take that and improve upon it and not be defensive or blaming someone else or whatever. You got to own it and move on. And if we have a chance to do it, I think we got a good group. We're going to find out, but it's going to continue to get challenging.
Coach, right here in the front. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay.
You've had a lot of home play recently. I know there's comfortability playing at home, but your next 2 back-to-back are away. What's this team going to need to bring to those 2 away games in order to be successful?
Well, again, you got to block out the noise. We'll work on those things as we did. Playing down in Columbia, I thought we prepared and played well. For the most part, could play a lot better in that regard, but had chances. Again, we got to clean some things up. One thing about when you go on the road, many times it's really the guys in that locker room is all you got. There's depends on the proximity of the game, but how many people are traveling. So you really got to bond together. And sometimes going on the road in these situations, especially a night game, you got a chance that you're going to be around each other for a long time in there. You got a chance to bond as a team and do some things, and it's kind of us against the world type mentality that you have to prepare for.
One more, Jordan. Lance, we saw Deshaun leave the game early.
Yeah.
How's he doing?
It's a leg of some sort. I was just told that he was done for the day, and they would know more tomorrow-ish, hopefully, or something like that. I asked Deshaun how he was doing there starting the second half, and he said, "Don't worry about me, Coach. We'll worry about that tomorrow." And so he was more focused on his teammates and things. So it's kind of a wait and see. But never good to lose him. We lost Laquan Robinson as well. and Quando at safety, and Mason out, and Devin out for a little bit. We're stretched a little bit depth wise there right now.
That's head coach Lance Leipold. Well, this week, probably more so than last week, we're going to kind of breeze past the post-game audio and focus on the audio preview at UCF for obvious reasons. But disappointing. KU had a lot of opportunities. Cincinnati's good. We talked about that earlier. I mean, this could be a team that wins 8, 9, 10 games. Who knows this season? But either way, you're not going to be happy about a loss. Losing to a mediocre team or losing to a good team, KU still wasn't able to make those winning plays.
Right, yeah, and Lance actually touched on that a little bit. He said, look, this is still a really good team that we lost to. Now, did we wind up, handing that one away? Probably, but still got to give credit to Cincinnati, right? Brendan Sorsby had an excellent game. They did a great job on the run game. Tawee Walker was really good as well. Lance obviously was a little down after that game, but you could tell that he was kind of fired up and ready to get back after it with his guys for sure for this upcoming game. And look, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked out, and especially in that 2-minute defense and in terms of third down conversion, fourth down conversion, that kind of thing. He understands that. There's nobody who understands that more than Lance Leipold. So I think that he's in the right mindset in terms of he's just fired up and wants to get back out there and try to prepare for UCF this coming week.
And that's the thing, like we've talked about so often, so many of these games, no matter how much preparation you do, how much simulating you do, are going to come down to one possession. The Cincinnati game, a perfect microcosm of what the Big 12 season is going to look like. Nobody led by more than a possession the entire game. But as we've discussed, there's plays to be made. You got to make them if you want to win. Cincinnati did down the stretch, and KU didn't. They've got to flip the script on that front moving forward. Again, that's going to be 6:30 at the Bounce House on Saturday, and hopefully KU can get to 4-2. It seems really like a crucial game now in the Jayhawks' schedule. We're going to have more on Taylen Kinney, another word on him, the verbal commit, highly ranked verbal commit for KU basketball next segment. We'll probably dive a little bit deeper into that, also deeper into the Chiefs on tomorrow's show as we have a full show on this Monday, but going to give some Monday Night Football game picks as well next segment on Rock Chalk Sports. Thanks for listening to ESPN Kansas City and watching KansasNation.com.
Hey, this is Cole Ballard, and you're watching KansasNation.com.
John Kellerman and Dan Courtwright back live for Rock Chalk Sports. Well, we recapped the weekend a little bit earlier, Dan. KU soccer, I know you're going to tell us about 3-0 they lost on Thursday, and then 3-2, a really tough one against TCU yesterday. Nate Lee's team taking their first 2 losses of the season, and now it's about the path forward. They've been so good. They haven't given up what seems like any goals all season. Yeah. And then Baylor and TCU, 2 really good programs, both score 3. So now KU got to turn the page from kind of a rough weekend at Rock Chalk Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, after the Oklahoma State game, Kansas had only given up 8 goals on the entire year, and then all of a sudden you have this 2-game stretch where you give up 6 total goals. I mean, it's obviously something on the defensive side of the ball, but Caroline Castens has been incredible in the defensive end. Sophie Daw is still Sophie Daw. Now, granted, there were some times where she tried to jump on the ball, come out of the box, jump on the ball, and the ball just wound up going behind her in the Baylor game. So the Baylor game, I think, was kind of a one-off. TCU was a very good team. They're a top 10 team in the nation. Kansas is now 7-2-2, but they're 1-2-0 in the Big 12. So starting Big 12 play like this is not exactly ideal. You obviously want to have a winning record, especially in these beginning parts, because momentum can really move you forward. Lexi Watts is continuing to be really good as well, but you need your star players to be your star players. Castens needs to be regular Castens, right? Sophie Daw needs to be regular Sophie Daw, and we just didn't see that in this 2-game stretch. Now, granted, they're going to have a little bit of a palate cleanser with this upcoming one. It's going to be, I think Kansas is going to get back on their feet, but this 2-game stretch really has been tough for Nate Lee and company. But knowing Nate Lee and knowing how demanding of a head coach he is, you would have to imagine that they're going to get back on track. And losing 3-2 against a top 10 team is really, not that bad, right? In terms of the grand scheme of things, TCU is a very good squad. They're probably going to win the Big 12 this year. They're probably going to make a run in the playoffs this year. And, going down 3-2 against a TCU team who obviously had a chip on their shoulder from last year after losing to Kansas in the Big 12 championship, I think, that's still a really good game in terms of the product that was put out there.
KU volleyball now 10-6 after they went 1-1 over the weekend, lost to number 8 Arizona State in 5 sets. Of their 6 losses, 5 are 5-set losses, and all of them are teams ranked in the top 25.
Right.
So you wish you had more wins, but 10-6. They did get that 10th win yesterday at Horsch, the first home win for Matt Ulmer, KU's first-year head coach. They swept Arizona, did the Jayhawks. KU number 18. Haven't seen the new rankings out quite yet today, but the number 18 ranking, despite the losses being more so than you would hope, kind of shows the respect level that the pollers have for KU's schedule. So good on them. Jovana Selinovic and Grace Nelson combined for 23 kills for the Jayhawks. Selinovic also had 5 blocks, and Nelson also had 8 digs. So interesting. This Kansas team has 3 captains, 2 of which are setters. Sometimes we see Kristen Klein as a setter. Sometimes we see Katie Dalton as a setter. Going to be joined by Greeny, Henry Greenstein, KUSports.com, the Lawrence Journal World on Wednesday, and he'll give us a little bit more insight onto how that's kind of breaking down. Katie Dalton, somebody who's been at Kansas since she came out of high school,
right,
and she's a senior getting an opportunity. And Kristen Klein, of course, was a first-team All Big Ten player last year as a freshman at Oregon. So kind of interesting there that KU's got really talented setters. Now the Hawks have their first road swing. They head to TCU Wednesday at 6:30 for first serve, and then they get Baylor in Waco on Friday. So opportunities on the road for KU volleyball. Mentioned the Chiefs' dominant win yesterday, 37-20 over the Ravens. We'll have more on that on tomorrow's Rock Chalk Sports. But the big news over the weekend in terms of KU was Tay Kinney going on Instagram and announcing that he will be coming to play basketball the 26-27 season. This is a huge get, potentially the first of a couple huge gets for Bill Self and the KU basketball team. Your thoughts on this addition, and what else can you tell us about Tay Kinney?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, right? Because, 99.99999% Darren Peterson is going to be going to the NBA draft next year. So Kansas is going to need a point guard, and no better than another 5-star guy going to be coming in. He's the number 1 point guard in the class of 26. He's the number 17 overall player in the class of 26 as well. And was able to pick Kansas over about 6-7, other schools as well.
By the way, he is 6'3", not 6'7". I want to throw that out there.
I know, yeah.
No, I know. I feel like people.
By the way,
I feel like people just assume he's 6'7",
right?
But he is 6'3". But I think there were 6 or 7 other
schools out there that he was kind of looking at as well. But no, last year with Overtime Elite, he averaged 20.1 points per game. He averaged 26.2 points per game per 40 minutes. And then obviously they're going on this year right now in the preseason of Overtime Elite, averaging 33.7 points per game per 40 minutes. So really exciting about this because he's going to fit perfectly in this offense. And we talked a little bit about this with Kevin Flaherty earlier on in the show. And, it's kind of strange to have, in theory, looking at it, 2 point guards who are going to be freshmen at the helm, really trying to lead this Kansas squad. Now, you certainly hope that maybe El Marco is going to be able to come back and a number of different other guys to be able to step into those leadership roles. But throughout the annals of Kansas basketball history, in terms of the Bill Self era, right, you've had those kind of veteran upperclassmen leaders at the point guard spot, aside from, I guess, Devon Dotson. This is going to be the first 2-year stretch where you're going to have basically 2 different guys who are both going to be freshmen coming in and sort of having that role of being that leader and being the facilitator at the point guard spot. So it's going to be interesting to see. I have high expectations for Tay Kinney, and then he's also, been on record saying, "Hey, look, I'm going to be on the phone with people trying to get them to come to Kansas as well." We know that there's a couple of guys. Let's see, Davion Adkins is going to be announcing on Sunday. Sounds like he's leaning towards being a Jayhawk. Also, Tyron Stokes, a big name. He's the number 1 player in the class of 2026. Tay Kinney's also said that he's going to be trying hard to recruit him to come to Kansas as well, because look, here's the thing. Darren Peterson had a point, right? Darren Peterson said this to Tay Kinney. He said, look, come to Kansas, ball out for 10 months, and then go to the league, right? That's the goal, right? You're going to come to Kansas. You're going to have all the history and all this stuff, but they're going to get you to the league. They're going to give you the resources that you need to be able to go to the NBA. And I think that's the very important thing. So I know this is going to work out. I'm very excited about Tay Kinney, but hey, look, we still got 2025 to look forward to as well with Darren Peterson at the helm.
5-star Tay Kinney, number 4 point guard in the 2026 Sports Center Next rankings, and number 17 overall in the 2026 class, announcing verbally committing to Kansas. Very exciting. Kinney told ESPN, "It felt like family from the time I got there until I left. We did so much. The fans at the football game were great. As soon as I walked into the stadium, they knew who I was. Going to have all sorts of coverage regarding Tay Kinney. Not exactly must-see TV tonight, Monday Night Football, but there are 2 games, Dan, really quick in 30 seconds or less. Dolphins -2.5 hosting the Jets, over under 44.5.
Give me Jets money line +130. I like the Jets here.
How about this? Give me the Dolphins -2.5. I think McDaniel gets one. Bengals at Broncos. Broncos are -7.5 against the Jake Browning-led Big Cats. Over under also 44.5.
It's in Denver. Jake Browning, not crazy about him. Give me the under 44.5 here, but give me Denver -7.5.
Too many points. Give me Bengals +7.5.
Fair
we
enough.
need to really be keeping track of
I know.
these. I really
I
don't
lost a
know
lot of
how
money
I'm doing.
this
How about that? Hey, thanks for watching Rock Chalk Sports. All sorts of coverage coming up this week, so make sure you're tuned in from 4 to 6 on KansasNation.com. For Easton John and Elijah Schmidt running the operations today, and Dan Courtwright, I'm Sean Kellerman saying we'll catch you tomorrow. ESPN Kansas City, KansasNation.com.